Hello everybody, this is Michelle with Creative Operation and Country Craft Creations, and I have a tutorial for you. This is part of my May design team package that I received from Country Craft Creations. I still have Photo Play's travel junk to play with, and if you haven't seen the haul video, go check it out. I'll link it below. But I also received the brand new Country Bunny card fronts, and this is part of the heritage product line that we have now at Country Craft Creations, where they have taken some of the wonderful Country Craft Creations exclusive papers and created card fronts, so that you can, have a real easy way to make a quick card. Well, a couple of our designers have made cards, and I thought about making a card, and then I thought, wait a minute, what if I did something a little bit different? So I tried to make a little project I think you're going to like. It takes just a little bit of cardstock, and then I also did use a little bit of the Country Bunny pattern paper from the store. So I'll have all that linked below so you can go check it out. It's amazing. It's just a super cute collection. So what I did was I created a do-si-do notebook out of this, and it turned out absolutely adorable. There are 4 different card fronts in this package, and so I used 2 on this one, and I'll use 2 on the one in the tutorial that we're going to do, and it's just really cute. And then also in these packages, if you aren't familiar, they also have sentiments that you can cut out and put on your cards when you make them. So I think that's really an awesome idea. I think this is wonderful. I love it. And I can't wait to show you what I ended up doing with this. So I'm going to put that off to the side and show you the book. So this is a do-si-do book. I'll open it up in a second, but it basically has 2 journal sections. So this is a do-si-do notebook, and it has basically 2 sections that you can do some writing in, take your notes, pop it in your purse, put your, whatever you want. But you could also gift this as a beautiful little keepsake album edition as a notebook. So like, for example, if it was given to someone for a baby, you could put in notes about babies, milestones as they're growing and learning. So there's just so many opportunities. So I used a card front on the front and on the back. The card fronts do measure 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so they will fill an entire card front. If you wanted to mat, you would have to trim off them a little bit, but you don't really need to because the designs are so pretty. I did go through my Country Craft Creations stash, and I grabbed some seam binding just to make a tie to close it. So here's the front of this particular notebook. It's super cute. I love this image. It's just adorable. What I ended up doing was matting it with some summer ivory cardstock, and then I used the antique gray Artisan cardstock for it too, because I thought the gray kind of played in with the colors of this paper collection really, really well. So again, this is Country Bunny. These are the card fronts, and then I did use a little bit of the pattern paper that I had left. I also used some pom-pom trim that I had from a previous purchase at Country Craft Creations, and then another light blue seam binding that I used. So anyway, this is the notebook. So here is the front. So again, it's matted with summer ivory, and then you open it up and you do have a pocket here so you can put notes in there. And then I just did a simple pamphlet stitch to put in some papers for journaling. And then on the back side, I did a pocket, and then I glued these pieces together in such a way where you have a pocket in the middle. And I did use the summer ivory piece that I cut to create a tag with that. So that turned out pretty perfectly with another piece of the Country Bunny paper that I had scraps of. And then I just punched a hole and put the pom-pom and the blue through the hole, and then tied it with some more of the seam binding that I used on the closure and made a cute little tag for that. So then I did use my envelope punch board to make a notch there. You can, or you don't have to if you don't want to, but I did that. And then here's the back. So it's basically kind of a double-sided notebook. So we repeat the pocket again. We have more note pages, and then we have another pocket back here. Okay, so do-si-do, so it has 2 sides to it. I think it's really cute. It's very nice and sturdy, especially since I put the extra matting on here, and then the card fronts actually are pretty thick too, so it worked out pretty nice. So let's go ahead and make another one together, and we'll talk about how this works. So first thing we're going to need are 2 pieces of antique gray Artisan cardstock, and I've got one of the books prepared. I'm going to prepare one with you. So this measures 9.5 by 6, and you're going to need your scoreboard. Let me grab that. And you're going to put it in your scoreboard, and you're going to score it at 4 3/4. Okay, so it's 9.5 by 6. You're going to put it with a 9.5 at the top. You're going to score at 4 3/4, and then you're just simply going to fold that, line up your edges, and burnish that. Okay, so that part is done. So you will need 2 of those. Okay, the next thing we will need, well, let's just continue on with that for a second. Let's just kind of go in order here. Okay, so once you have this piece done, then you're going to need your copy paper. So this is just plain printer paper. I tend to use 28 to 32 pounds, so it's nice and thick. But you can use any copy paper you want. I wanted to kind of keep this album more on the clean side because of the images of the country bunny. So I just used plain. You can use coffee dyed. You could use leisure paper, you know, whatever paper you want, you can do that. And so what I did was I just took one sheet and I cut it in half at 5.5. So you ended up with 2 sections that are 8.5 by 5.5, and then you just fold them over to make 4 1/4 by 5.5. So those are the 2 signatures. So again, I used 5 pieces. And then what you're going to do, I folded each of these, excuse me, in half, and then scored them, and then I put them together, stacked them really nice, scored them, and burnished them. Okay, put them all together, and then I trimmed the edges off just to make sure that the edges were nice and straight. So you can use a trimmer for that. You can use a straight edge and a knife. You don't even really have to do it since there's only about 5 pages. It's not super necessary, but I did it. So then what we need to do is sew this in place. So we're going to do a simple pamphlet stitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open everything up, and I'm going to line up all of my score lines in the middle of all of this, making sure everything is nice and even. So I'm just trying to open them and keep them nice and straight. And I can see I missed an edge here. I'm going to trim that off because it'll bug me if I don't. Okay. And then I'm just going to line up all these score lines. And I'm just going to eyeball center them and just make sure that the score lines match the middle of that piece of cardstock. Okay. All right. And then grab some clips. You can hold those in place with these clips. And then the next thing you're going to need is a foam mat. You're going to need a hole poker of some sort, and then you're going to need a needle and thread. You can use embroidery floss, baker's twine. I'm using waxed bookbinding thread. It's totally up to you what you want to use. So now make sure, because I didn't quite center that top and bottom really well, make sure it's nice and centered top and bottom, and then go ahead and just clip them just so that they keep in place. And then grab a ruler, and I'm using my centering ruler, and I'm lining that up on the score line, and then I'm centering it top to bottom. So it's 6 inches, so from the center should be 3 inches. Then I'm going to get my pokey tool here, and right through those score lines, I'm going to poke at 0, because that's the center, and then I'm going to poke at 2 on either side of that. Okay, so you might nudge your ruler a little bit, just make sure you're in the center, and just make your 3 holes. Okay, 1 2 3. So we got that. So again, they're at the center point, and they're at 2 on either side of the center. I already have my needle and thread loaded. Just make sure you have enough length. This is going to thread through all of this a couple times. And I'm going to pick this up, and I'm still going to keep it kind of together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, I want my knot to be on the inside of this one because of the way this notebook is. And then with having the seam binding around it, I didn't want bows or knots on the outside. So I did it so that the knots are on the inside of the notebook. So you're going to start in the center here on the inside, and you're going to thread through that middle hole. And you're going to keep a hold of that because you don't want to pull it through. And then we're going to go through one of the other holes. So this one through there. And then once you get that done, so down through the center, up through one side, and then we're going to go all the way across to the other side and go back through. Okay, so we're making one big stitch. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go back through the center again. Now, when you do that, you want to make sure that one end is on each side of that big stitch that we put in the middle, okay? And then what you're going to do is just pull that tight. So you want that big stitch in between your two ends. So then I'm going to cut that thread and then just put my needle off to the side for just a second. And I'm going to put this off to the side because I don't need that anymore either. And then what you're going to do is we're going to take your ends, pull them tight, and then you're going to tie a square knot. Pull it tight. Oops, lost my grip there. Pull it tight. So do at least 2. I'm a little bit paranoid, so I do 3. And then you're going to trim those off. I'm going to do it about an inch-ish, okay? And then your little booklet is done, okay? So that's how you make the book, and that's a pamphlet stitch, and it works really, really well for lots of projects. So you can see it's bound on the side with the stitching. Looks real pretty. There's no knots on the outside, and then the knots are on the inside, okay? Now the next thing we're going to need to do is we're going to connect these two together. So there's a couple things we need to do. So if you open up your books, what you're going to end up doing is we're going to, and if I show you the top side, we're going to put them together so that basically the back pages are going to glue together. Now, if you want to just glue them together without making a pocket, you can totally do that. But one thing we're going to have to do is trim the ends a little bit, because if you see, they don't go quite to the edge of the book. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the back pages, the ones that are going to glue together, and we're going to trim off like a 1/16 of an inch, okay? So just go ahead and grab a trimmer, put it into your trimmer. So this measured the sides where we scored it, 4 3/4. So I'm just going to nudge it over about a 1/16 of an inch. So right in between 4 5/8 and 4 3/4. And I'm just going to trim a little edge off, okay? Doesn't really matter because we don't have any decorations on yet. So just on one cover only, okay? One side only. Leave the other one totally alone, okay? So again, I'm lining up my score line to between 4 5/8 and 4 3/4, okay? So 1/16 of an inch we're just taking off. Just a little teeny tiny sliver, okay? Just a little bit. Then those cut edges are going to glue together, okay? So again, if you close your book, if you kind of lose track, one side is going to be shorter. We're going to glue the shorter sides, okay? So making sure we got our shorter sides, this is going to glue like that, okay? Just make sure you don't glue your pages in. Now, the last thing we need to do is we need to, if this is going to be the front of the book, and if we take a pencil and put front, because we're going to cover that up, then the way I did it was I notched the back page of the part that's going to be on the back, okay, with my envelope punch board. Now, this is something you don't have to do if you don't want to. So I'm just going, but I want to, so I'm going to do that. And remember, this is the side we trimmed off. So in order to kind of center this, I'm just going to use my centering ruler, and it's going to be just a wee, in between 2 1/4 and 2 3/8 is how we're going to line that up, okay? So the center of that cutoff page, we'll center it in, so the midline part will line up on the edge at 2 1/4 plus a 1/16. Does it make sense? So between 2 1/4 and 2 3/8. So what I'm going to do is put this in here, and I'm going to line it up right in between 2 1/4 and 2 3/8. Okay. And I'm going to punch my notch. Okay. And that'll help us get our tag in and out. Okay. That's all we're going to do with that. And then we're going to be able to glue these together. Now the reason why, and we'll look at this again too, that we cut that 1/16 of an inch off. See how it lines up better with the notebook. It doesn't hang out as much. So it kind of helps that. So that's why I did that. All right, so next thing is just to glue this on 3 sides to this. So I'm going to take my glue, my art glitter glue, and I'm just going to put a line of glue. Whoop, not very straight. Had a little bit of caffeine today. Okay, I'm going to just put glue on all 3 sides, and then I'm going to take my notebook here, and I'm going to line that up right before the score line, so not into the score line, and just make sure all my edges line up. Okay. And just press that down. And that is your pocket done. Okay. So the back side will be flat, but this side will have that notch. And then this is where you're going to get your tag. Okay. And your tag will pop right in there. Okay. So now that this part's done, let's put this off to the side. Okay. And let's talk about the card fronts and the pattern papers. Okay. So for the card fronts, what I did was I matted them with some summer ivory paper. Lost my words. So when I cut the cardstock for this, I'll show you here. I'm going to turn this all backwards because I want to show you how I cut this. So I cut the pieces 5 7/8 by 12. And then I cut a piece off that was 4 5/8. 4 5/8. Those go for matting the card fronts. And then the leftover piece is what the tag was created from. Excuse me. This is 2 3/4 by 5 7/8. Okay, so you need altogether 2 pieces that are 4 5/8 by 5 7/8, and then you need this leftover piece that's 2 3/4 by 5 7/8, and that all came from a 12-inch strip of the cardstock. So to make these 2 do-si-do books, I used 2 sheets of antique gray and then 1 sheet of the summer yellow, and then I used some scraps from my country bunny along with 4 card fronts total, 2 for each book. Okay, so put the tag off to the side. So here is what we're going to do. I wanted to put some pom-pom trim on here. I just really wanted to use it. So before you glue this onto your paper, we need to add that. So I'm going to show you how I did it. So here's the other card front that we're going to use. And I put a line of score tape on the right-hand side. And then here is my pom-pom trim. And again, this is from Country Craft Creations. It's super adorable. I just love it. And I thought it just added a cute little decorative element to it. So then I'm just going to lay that down right to the edge of the pom-pom on the back. And then what I did was I turned it over to kind of line up the rest. And I would just want that pom-pom edge to be right over the top of that cardstock. Okay, so the rest of it is going to be kind of adhered back here. And I'm just going to lay that down. The pom-pom's resting right on the edge. And I did cut a piece a little bit bigger than I needed, but that's okay. All right, so I just am sticking that down with that score tape that I added. All right, then we'll take our scissors and I'm going to trim that off. Maybe I'm going to trim that off. Can't get the right angle on both ends, like so. Okay, then what I'm going to do is, because of fraying issues, I want to use my lighter here, and I want to just kind of burn the edges of the pom-pom here real quick. You don't have to get it real close. You just have to get the heat close enough to where it will melt that edge so it won't fray. Okay, you can use glue if you want. but just be careful not to set your paper on fire, okay? So that's what I did with that. And then what we're going to do is just use glue and glue that down here, okay? So I'm gonna grab my art glitter glue again, and I'm gonna put a piece right down that strip of pom-pom trim that I adhered to the back of the card. And then I'm going to center this onto my cardstock. And I'm not looking at the pom-pom, I'm looking at my card front. Okay, so the pom-pom will be over towards the edge more, and that's what I want. But I want the card front centered, okay? And I'm gonna press this down really good and make sure that that glue sticks, okay? Okay. You can decorate this as much as you want. I kept it kind of simple because of the way that I used the seam binding to tie it. But I also thought a fun way to close the book, where did I put it, is if you wanted to and you had some decorative clips. Let me grab this. You could use a decorative clip and keep it closed if you wanted to. But I really liked the look of the seam binding on it. I just thought that was really pretty. So we have our card front, so you just have to figure out which one you want front, which one you want back. And I think this one, I want the bunny on the front. So the bunny's going to go here, and then the dress will go on the back. So I'm just going to open it up so it's a little more flat and glue that to here. Now, you're going to have about a 1/16 of an inch all the way around when you glue that down. So just a little peek of that antique gray around the summer ivory. I love the summer ivory. It's like, I swear, it's one of my favorite colors of the Artisan cardstock. I love it. It's a real natural color, but it has that tint of yellow in it that is just gorgeous. And I've used it for so many things. And I think it's just beautiful. So it's one of my favorites. You have to go check it out. If you haven't used it, you've got to check it out. I mean, all the colors are gorgeous, but I think this one has to be one of my favorites. Okay, so there's the front of my album, and then we're going to turn it over. We got to put the piece on the back. So again, I'm just going to open this up so it's a little more flat. That'll go here. And then we'll create our pockets, and then you guys will be done. I mean, it's really a simple project. It doesn't take a lot. You can use scraps for the pockets. You can put in as many or as few as you want. There's also in the collection of Country Bunny, there's some ephemera pieces that you could cut out. You could decorate the pages. There's just so much you could do. But I just thought this was a great way to kind of repurpose card fronts and make something a little bit different and really easy and quick. So this would be a great gift. Okay, so now we have our book. So we have the two do-si-do sections here. And then what we're going to do is make our pockets. So first pockets we're going to make are just nice long pockets. They're very simple. So you need 2 pieces of pattern paper that are 3 by 7. And we're going to, let's get our scoreboard again. I've already prepped one. You're going to put it with the 3 at the top. We're going to score at half. And then you're going to turn it with the 7 at the top, and you're going to score at half and at 6.5. Okay, so those are the 2 long pockets. Again, they are 3 by 7. You need 2 of those. And then we're going to make a cutoff pocket. And I've already prepped this one. Let's prep this one. So you will need a piece that is 4 by 5. On the 4, we're going to score at 3, and then we're going to turn it so that that score line is at the top, and we're going to score at 4.5. Okay, so basically you're doing an L-shaped score on the right-hand side and then the bottom. Okay, so there's those 2. Now let's get rid of this and let's prep these pockets. So I've already scored and cut this one. I'm going to fold these. These are going to go the length of the notebook. Okay, so we have this. We're going to take our scissors and miter the 1/2 inch. We're going to go all the way through the corner here, sharp cut there, and then we'll miter this one. Okay, then we'll fold and burnish again. Turn that over. Okay, one more time. All right, we'll grab our book. So these particular pockets are going to go inside right here. So here's where we put the card fronts. These are going to go here. So the first thing, we are going to want to use the tape trick. So I'm going to just score the I'm going to glue, I can't talk today, this right here. I thought about this project last night and I worked it up real quick this morning in between doing all my chores and my laundry and my produce order coming and all that stuff. I wanted to get this tutorial done for you guys because I just think it's a real cute project. Then I'm going to start working on the travel junk. That's going to be fun. All right, so I'm putting a piece of tape over top of that tab so that whatever you put the pocket won't get caught up. Okay. And then we're going to glue that down. So we're going to glue the tabs. I'm using my new room. I'm in my new room, I should say. I'm super excited about it. Using my new camera arm. I got some different lighting. I'm hoping that it works out well and that, you know, you guys like it. I'm still fiddling with how to set up everything and make sure nothing's in the way. So I had a hard time with that, but there you go. Okay, one pocket goes there. One pocket goes here. So we're going to do the whole thing one more time. So again, glue only on the long pocket. Just put my glue there for now. And then glue that down. And again, it will go edge to edge. Okay. Like so. Grab your tape. When I cleaned my room and organized and everything, I don't know if you guys have seen Craft Room Update number 2. Next week is going to be IKEA week. And we're going to go and I'm going to get some bins and some other things. And then I'll have kind of a final walkthrough of my new and improved, reorganized, beautiful craft room. And I'm oh, you guys, I'm so happy with it. I am not happy at how this came about, that's for sure. But I am super happy how everything ended up. So that's good. Okay. Big pockets are in on both covers. Okay. So then what I wanted to do was put pockets on the inside here. And because of the folding and kind of the bulk that it takes in the book, when we put these on, we're going to put them a little bit away from the edge on this one. So I've got this one cut out already, but we do have one more thing to do here. So our score lines are here. I want to cut that angle. So what I did was I measured in 2 inches and put a tick mark, and then measured 2 inches and put a tick mark, and I'm going to cut that triangle off. So I'm going to show you a trick also. So what we're going to do is cut that angle off. So again, here's the score lines. If you're looking, this is the back of the pocket, okay? This is the front of the pocket. On the back of the pocket, I measured in from the top right corner 2 inches in, put a tick mark. Then I measured 2 inches down and put a tick mark. And then what you're going to do on the first pocket, you're going to put it in here and you're going to whack this off, right? Boom. If you don't want to measure, and again, that's what it would look like if you did it. If you don't want to measure the second one, you can just put them together and then use scissors and cut that off too. Okay, so that's kind of a little trick if you got to do 2 of the same type of pocket. But I'm just going to measure those or line those tick marks up and whack that off. And we've got our angle for our pocket. Okay. Then we will miter that 1/2 inch. We're going to go all the way through sharply on the bottom and then there. Okay. Fold and burnish. We're going to do the tape trick on this one as well, but we're going to have to do it on both of these because that will make it work a lot better. So I'm going to open those scores back up. I'm going to grab some tape And we're gonna put tape on the bottom there. And then we're gonna turn it and put tape, kind of eyeball measuring it here on this one. Okay, and then I'll fold those down. I'm gonna re-burnish, and then we'll just glue it all down at the same time, okay? All right, so we're gonna get our book. So this is, if you can imagine here, we got our pocket here. So I'm just flipping over my pages. I'm gonna put it here, and I'm gonna put it about, a 1/16 of an inch or so away from the edge, okay, top and bottom, so that it doesn't kind of interfere with the bending of the book, okay? It'll just help everything, and it won't be so close to the edge, okay? So kind of like if you were matting, okay? And there's that pocket. So we're going to turn it over, and we're going to do the same thing over here, okay, with this one. So fold and burnish. Okay, and we're going to do our tape again. You like my dispenser? I kind of found it in the reorganizing. My youngest son bought it for me when I got my craft room. My high heel. Ooh, I cut that one a little too long there. Let's trim that off a little bit. And, okay. Fold that down. Okay. And that way, just whatever we put in the pocket won't get stuck. Won't get hung up on the tabs. Like so. All right. Maybe about there. Okay, there's our other pocket. So that is done. All right, so now we have our notebook. We have our front and back pockets. Here's our other side, front and back pockets. And we just need to put our tag in that top pocket, like so. And there you go. That's what we're gonna do. So then you just wrap your seam binding around, like so, and tie a pretty bow. And I just stole the seam binding off my first notebook. There we go. So there's that one. Let's grab the other one here, and I just have my seam binding, and I'm just gonna wrap it around and tie a bow, and let's see if this one is even long enough. So, not quite. How about this? I know, let's do blue. This one has a little boy's outfit, so let's just do blue. If I can get my fumble fingers to work, right? Okay, here we go. I think it's gonna work. Yep, it's gonna work. So just tie your bow, and there you have it. Do a little trimmy trim, and voila, you have two really super cute projects using Country Craft Creations papers and the new card fronts that we have available through our Heritage product line. You guys are gonna love this. Great collection, super cute little quick project. I think you're gonna love it. I just think you're gonna love it. All right, so let me know what you think. I really think this turned out cute. It was a nice, simple little project, but another way to use the card fronts if you didn't want to make cards. So, but you have plenty. You have 12 card fronts in here, so you can make cards and you can make these. So, all right, well, that's what I got for you today. I hope you liked it. Let me know. Stay crafty, and I will see you again really soon with my next design team tutorial. All right, take care. Bye-bye.